Okay, so we're going to talk about the muscles surrounding the shoulder, but the first one we'll talk about is the muscles on the posterior aspect of the body. So the first one is the trapezius. The action, because it has 3 sets of fibres, so it has upper, middle and lower, they all do different actions. So the upper fibres bilaterally will actually extend the head and neck. Thank you. And then unilaterally they will laterally flex the neck and rotate the head. Lovely, thank you. It also elevates and upwardly rotates the scapula. Thank you. Now the middle fibres, they will retract and stabilise the scapula. The lower fibres will depress and upwardly rotate the scapula. Lovely, thank you. So the origin, first of all, it starts in the superior nuchal line of the occiput, external occipital protuberance and the ligamentum nuchae. Also on the spinous process of C7 through to T12. The insertion point, I'll just turn you around to the side, is the lateral third of the clavicle, the acromion and also the spine of the scapula, which is just across here. The next muscle is levator scapula, and again the action bilaterally, it will actually extend the head and neck. And again unilaterally it will laterally flex the neck and also rotate the head. That's so fantastic. So the origin is the transverse processes of the cervical spine from C1 through to C4. It'll be down the sides as opposed to on the back there. The insertion point is the medial border of the scapula between the superior angle and the superior portion of the spine. So if you have the medial border here, and you have the spinal scapula just there, it'll be this between the superior angle and it will be between that spine just there. So this point just here leading up to the C1, C4. Now rhomboid major and rhomboid minor technically work as one muscle. They perform the same actions, but they do have separate origin and insertion points. So the actions is they retract the shoulder blade, retract the scapula, that's it. They downwardly rotate the scapula. That would be the other way. So basically if the arm comes across the body here and takes it down, it pulls that scapula into a downward angle there. So the origin of the rhomboid major is the spinous processes of T2 to T5. So if T1 is about here, T2 to about T5 will be there. The rhomboid minor, the spinous process origin is from C7 and T1, so those 2 vertebrae just there. The insertion points, the rhomboid major is the medial border of the scapula between the spine and the inferior angle. So if you've got the spinous scapula just here and the medial border is just there, it will be the insertion point just here. Whereas the minor is the upper portion, so if you've got the spinous scapula just there and you have your superior angle, it will just between these 2 points here. So the next muscle we're going to talk about is the latissimus dorsi, which is quite a large muscle. The action, it extends the shoulder, backwards, that's it. It adducts the shoulder, and it medially rotates the shoulder. That's it, lovely. Now the origin is the inferior angle of the scapula, so again if you've got your inferior angle just there. The spinous process of the last 6 thoracic vertebrae, so about T7 to T12. The last 3 to 4 ribs, so you'll be looking at this area here. Thoracolum aponeurosis, and again which is this area just down here, and the posterior iliac crest, which can be identified as the dimples on the lower back. The insertion point is the intertubercle groove, which will be on the anterior portion of the humerus just here. I think that's it, yeah, that's it. So the teres major is classed as lat's little helper, so it kind of does the same sort of movements and is more of an assisting muscle. The action, again, is the same as latissimus dorsi, so it extends the shoulder, adducts the shoulder, adducts the shoulder, and immediately rotates the shoulder. Lovely, thank you. The origin, again, is the inferior angle, which is again just there, and the lower 1/3 of the lateral border of the scapula. So the inferior angle is just there, the lateral border would just be down here, so that would be the lower third. The insertion point again is the crest of the lesser tubercle. So again, that would be on the anterior portion of the humerus, and it would just be here. The next muscle we're going to look at is the deltoid. Sorry, if I can just turn to the side. So again, the deltoid, it encompasses the whole area of the glenoid cavity there, and the whole capsule area there. So again, all fibres will abduct the shoulder. So lovely. The anterior portion here will flex the shoulder, medially rotate the shoulder, and it will horizontally adduct the shoulder. That's lovely, thank you. The posterior portion, which is just here, will extend the shoulder, will laterally rotate the shoulder, and horizontally abduct the shoulder. The origin, again, same as the trapezius, it's the lateral 1/3 of the clavicle, the acromion, and also the spinous scapula just there, so creating that sort of U shape there. The insertion point is they all come around and they insert into the deltoid tuberosity just here. Coracobrachialis, I'm just going to bring him up to the front. So now we're moving again more onto the sort of anterior aspects of the body. Coracobrachialis, the action is to flex the shoulder and to adduct the shoulder. The origin is the coracoid process, so this little nodule just in here, and the insertion point is the medial surface of the humeral shaft. So again, that will be just the medial portion of the humeral shaft just in there, maybe a bit low down. Pectoralis minor. So again, the action is to depress the scapula. So push them down. So abduct the scapula. Actually, it might just be better to turn you around. Actually, it's probably going to be easier if you turn all the way around. So again, so the action is to depress the scapula, so the scapula go downwards. So if you just drop your shoulders down, that's it. If you abduct the scapula, so retraction, so squeezing the two together, and then a downward rotation. So if we just use that on one side, and if Louise pops her arm behind her back and then pulls inwards there, so then the shoulder blade is rotating downwards. Now the origin is the 3rd, 4th and 5th ribs, which again would be on the anterior aspect, and the insertion point would be the medial surface of the coracoid. So again, that would just be in here. Pectoralis major, again it has 3 fibres, upper, middle and lower. So all fibres together will adduct the shoulder. So medially rotate the shoulder. The upper fibres will flex the shoulder and horizontally adduct the shoulder. The lower fibres will extend the shoulder. Lovely. So the origin is the medial half of the clavicle. So if the clavicle is along here, the medial half will be there. It will come down through the sternum, and then it will be the cartilage of ribs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And the insertion point is the greater tubercle. So again, that will be on the anterior portion of the humerus just there. Serratus anterior, so this abducts the shoulder. It upwardly rotates the scapula, so if I turn Louise round, so it upwardly rotate the scapula. You take your arm to like move there, so it upwardly rotates the scapula. And it holds the medial border against the ribs. So the origin is the upper 8th and 9th ribs, and the insertion point is the anterior medial border of the scapula. So if you imagine, sorry I keep turning around, it's the anterior portion of the scapula just underneath, so you'd be looking at sitting alongside subscapularis. Now moving on to the rotator cuff muscles, so there's 4. So basically if we turn you around, so the first one will be subscapularis. So this will be the one that sits underneath the actual scapula. The origin is the subscapular fossa of the scapula, which is again what sits against the rib cage. The insertion point is the lesser tubercle of the humerus. I'll just turn you around here. So the lesser tubercle would be the point that's closer to the midline of the body, as opposed to being the greater tubercle, which is the furthest point from the midline of the body. The action is to medially rotate the shoulder and to also stabilise the head of the humerus in the glenoid cavity. The second muscle is the supraspinatus. I'll just turn you around. So the origin again is the supraspinous fossa of the scapula. So if you have your spinal scapula just here, and you've got this whole section that's on the superior portion of the scapula. So you've got your superior angle in the inferior angle. So the supraspinatus would sit into this fossa here, and it would come through underneath the acromion process, and it would insert into the greater tubercle of the humerus, which, if we turn around, would be on the humerus just on the front here. Infraspinatus, again similar to supraspinatus but a different portion. So again, if you have the inferior angle there, it will be covering the infraspinous fossa, which is the remaining part of the scapula. So it will basically originate from the supraspinous fossa, the scapula, and again will insert into the greater tubercle of the humerus, again the anterior aspect of the humerus. The action is to abduct the shoulder, and it also again stabilises the head of the humerus and the glenoid cavity.